Focusing on your eye health, it's the top cause of vision loss impacting millions of Americans. We're talking about macular degeneration.
And McGregor Lott is a retina specialist at Florida Eye Specialist. He's here to explain this condition, so let's start with that, McGregor. What is macular degeneration?
Well, macular degeneration causes the center part of the retina to deteriorate. So the retina has a specialized area in the middle called the macula, and the macula lets us read, recognize faces, and so macular degeneration causes that area to deteriorate, and that leads to vision loss.
And what actually leads to that? What causes that?
Well, there's a number of research efforts going into that. We think that it involves both genetic factors and environmental factors.
So genetics, obviously that plays a role in anything, but what are some of the things that are, you said environmental factors, what are things in our areas or in our environment that could increase our risk of this?
So one of the biggest things is smoking. So if you've ever smoked in the past, even if it was 50 years ago, there seems to be some damage to your retina that catches up with you later in life. Other things include like obesity, high blood pressure, having a family member with the disease, white race, female gender, lighter eye color, all those things seem to be risk factors.
So it's possibly genetic, it's definitely lifestyle and environment. So is there any way to test ourselves? You say there's a self-test that we can actually figure out.
Yes,
if we have
there's a test called an Amsler grid, which your eye doctor can give you. It's basically a grid on paper with a central dot. And you look at the center dot and you pay attention to all the lines, and they should all be there and they should all be straight. So if you're testing yourself and you see some new distortion or you see some missing lines, then you need to get to your eye doctor and get it checked out.
And is it something that, it sounds like it's maybe like a tic-tac-toe board?
Almost like a tic-tac-toe. Exactly.
Okay, all right, that's good to know.
I wanted back to the risk factors, and obviously if you have genetics, but what are some things that people can do in their diet and environment to possibly prevent this?
Right, so again, a lot of effort's been put into this. We think simply living a healthy lifestyle like your family doctor might recommend. So for instance, exercising on a regular basis, eating a balanced diet, particularly we think eating green leafy vegetables like spinach, kale, Brussels sprouts, a lot of those things that a lot of people don't like to eat, seems to have some beneficial effect on the retina. And therefore macular degeneration, exactly.
Yes. Good time to turn into a vegetarian, I think, because I have this, unfortunately, this is genetically in my family. So what are the treatments actually once you're actually diagnosed with this?
Well, we divide macular degeneration into two different types. About 80% to 90% have the dry type, the rest have the wet, and they're treated differently. So if you have the dry type, research has shown that special vitamin supplements that you take twice daily tend to slow it down, slow the progression of disease. If you have the wet type, we actually inject medications into the eye to help reconvert it to the dry type. I know it sounds horrible, but
inject with a needle into the eyeball.
That's exactly right. But people tolerate it very well.
Yeah, but
is it painful, or is it something that's just?
Well, it's
like
not
a regular
absolutely
shot, it's not painful,
pain-free.
It's more of the anxiety about it.
It's the anticipation, exactly.
Okay.
We numb the eye, of course. We try to make people comfortable, but it tends to be quite effective, and like I said, people tolerate it very well.
And can it reverse, or does it just kind of stop the progression?
The injections?
Yes.
Those tend to reconvert people to the dry type, which is more slowly progressive. So you get rid of the swelling, you get rid of the bleeding. It works in most people.
So yeah, one, if there's not a better push to eat plant-based, you get a needle in your eye if you don't. But I wanted the difference between the wet. I don't understand the wet and dry type. What's that?
Okay, so this disease has a spectrum of findings, and about 10% of people will suddenly develop bleeding or swelling. That's just part of the disease. It's still being worked out exactly why that happens to some people and not others. But when you get that wet type, it can lead to a more quick progression, quicker loss of vision. So it becomes very important to get that treated promptly by your eye doctor.
And is there a certain age you need to start being concerned with this, being tested? Is there a certain age limit?
Well, it's interesting. About 1 in 14 people around age of 40 have some degree of this. and it gets worse as you age. In fact, people over age 80 have about a 1 in 3 chance of having it. So I think it's important to have your eyes examined every year or two, particularly if you have a family history, and it's something that your doctor can probably identify well before you could, even with the self-assessment tools.
So this sounds very common.
It is quite common, unfortunately.
Is this something people should check with their doctor first, or come see you guys at the Florida Eye Specialist?
Well, generally you don't need a referral to get your eyes examined. It's always a good idea, I think, to get your eyes checked.
Mm-hmm. Keep up to date on it. Appreciate you, Doc.
Thank you very much for having me.
Eat plants, folks, or you get a needle in your eye. Thanks for joining us. Special thanks to Florida Eye Specialist for being here and sharing this information. And for more information, you can visit FloridaEyeSpecialist.com or call 904-564-2020 to schedule a consultation.